Okay, I'd like to call the December 13th, 2017 Board of Finance regular meeting to order. Please rise and join me for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. With that, I'd like to turn the floor over to the first selectman to conduct the election of officers.
Is that in the order, or should I take an extra
Here.
one? There's got to be an extra one.
Yep,
Jason's
there
not
is.
here, right?
There is.
So,
No, you can take that. Camille can take that. Oh, you guys, I'm sorry, I didn't count right.
We have plenty.
We're,
okay, so it's got to come down there.
yeah, we can share, that's fine.
John's got to. When I put money in the budget next year for a new audiovisual system, would you please
And a new operator,
leave it in
I
there?
hope?
A new what?
A new operator to go with it?
No, you're very good at it. You've become very good. So
Surprise of
we'll
proficiency.
open up the nominations for the election of a chair, and then the new chairman will open up the nominations for vice chair. That's generally how it works. So, nominations from the board.
I'd like to start off this evening by saying that my current work commitments don't allow me to even be considered for chair, so I'd like to pass that on to somebody else this evening if they would be so inclined. I had spoken with Lisa individually and thought that she would be a good choice, but she is not interested or otherwise available at this time either. So as the current chairman, having been in this chair for quite some time, I think that the next logical candidate is Bill Weber. So I would therefore like to nominate Bill Weber as chairman of the Board of Finance.
Thank you. I have a nomination for Bill Weber. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, I have a nomination and second. Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? I'll call the nominations closed. And Mr. Weber, having no other candidates for the position, I'd congratulate you as the new chairman of the Board of Finance.
Thank you, but I think you still need to have a vote for the records.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Before we vote, could I just want to make a comment?
Sure,
I think
comments.
A discussion. So I'm in agreement with that. I mean, Bill's done a great job here. We worked together. How many years have you been on here?
Only two.
Only two. God, it seems like 10. But no, but I think Bill would be a great choice, and I'm happy to support him. I want just one record with that.
Thank you.
Bill, if you somehow lose this vote,
Stranger things have happened.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any oppose or abstain? So it's a unanimous decision. Mr. Weber, congratulations. I'll give you the meeting. Give the meeting back over to you, sir.
Thank you.
Are you going to operate from that side?
I can
tonight?
operate from this
I
side.
guess
I'm fine.
it's-
I'm
okay.
fine. I'm not real big on seating. All right. So I'd now like to open nominations for the vice chair. And for that position, I still think that Lisa would be an excellent candidate, and I would like to nominate Lisa. Do I have a second?
I second.
We have a nomination and a second. Do we have any more nominations? Do we have any more nominations? Do we have any more nominations? Hearing none, I would like to wait until Jason sits so he can participate.
Hi, Guy. Don't worry, no one's even seen you tonight.
Jason who?
So we
Is it
have
your
a
regular?
nomination for Lisa for vice chair.
Has it been seconded? John
It
seconded.
has been seconded. So now, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? All abstained? Abstained, nice word. Hearing none, motion's closed, motion carried.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Appreciate your confidence.
All right, so I guess that means I pick up the agenda from here. Next item on the agenda is delegations. The purpose of delegations is for people in the community to discuss anything that's currently on the agenda anything that you can share with us to think you'll influence our knowledge level would be appreciated. So do we have anybody that would like to speak under delegations? Please come to the podium. So we got your mic. Give us your name and your address, please, when you get there.
I'm Bob Simpson, 30 Sleepy Hollow Road in Niantic. Oh,
Hello.
did good there.
Evening.
Okay. I'm here to speak about the pool, the problem we're having there, the circulation problem, air circulation problem. I've been attached to the pool for at least 15 years. I teach kids to swim from 1 to 3. So they're babies in tots where we take the babies into the water, and we also have parents in the water, and we introduce them to water, right? And the swimming program. But the pool is just more than just learning to swim. The pool has programs that you can't get at anywhere else. The lifeguard program. Most of the lifeguards around here have all gone through East Lyme High School, Aqua Center to get their, their qualification to be a lifeguard. So that we supply lifeguards to all the like McCook's, all the swimming areas, and also I think they go to New London too. Also, Jack. Oh yeah. New London, and so kids. There's programs for everybody there. There's programs for the older people. I happen to just go this year. I'm having a little problem with my back and my balance, and we have a water aerobics class twice a week. There's a swimming team competition for all ages. People that are employed or young people that are working come there very early in the morning to swim and keep up their skills in swimming. And how important is this to know how to swim around here? I mean, look at the children that could get into really deep trouble if they don't know how to swim. There's all kinds, we're surrounded by water. And, things happen. So that's why I'm here tonight. I hope that this problem will be resolved quickly and we get on with it, and that's about all I have to say.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything to speak about under public delegations? All right, hearing none, we'll close public delegations, and we'll move on to approval of the meeting minutes from the October 11th meeting.
Only Camille and Bill Weber were here for that meeting.
So
Acco-
can we approve it?
That is
Yes, you
correct.
may.
Yes.
Yes.
Without a quorum? Or,
You have enough to approve, well, or not, or deny, but would need a motion in a second. Okay.
Were there any issues that you had with the meeting?
I
minutes?
have no issues, thank you,
I had,
Karen.
there was a typo I found, but I didn't circle it, so I'm okay with it as well. So, I'll motion to approve the meeting minutes as proposed for October 11th, 2017.
I'll second that.
Great.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Aye.
You have-
Mhm.
If you,
Yeah.
well,
Of course we read them.
if you equate yourself with the meeting, so you can watch the videos and you can watch the proceedings, and then you can, so any public records that you use to get yourself familiar with. So, motion's been carried,
303?
303, correct. Next is reports from Board of Ed. Hey, you looking good.
That physical therapy does it. And the pool. I go swimming in that pool does it. You know, if you have your hip replaced, you got to have a pool. So, good evening, Tim Hagan. I'm once again the chair of the Board of Education, and during this busy time, I get to, during the holiday season, I get to be the one to come and represent the board here. We've been real busy. A couple of things I wanted to share with you. Our new director, relatively new director of special ed, Kim Davis, along with Jeff Newton, our superintendent, commissioned a study to be done. It was done by one of the RESCs, which is called CREC. They're one of the larger ones up in Hartford. They came down and did an extensive review of our special education services that we provide to our children. Just to give you a frame of reference, it constitutes roughly 20% of the Board of Ed's budget. So it's really a good thing to ever so often to take a hard look at how we're providing services. Are we within the right scope, and how are we doing? And overall, I'd say we came out pretty well in the review. We were given strong commendations for trying to minimize the number of outplacements that we have in special ed. They're very costly, and it really hurts the quality of the student that has to sit on a bus to go, miles away. We only have 10 kids right now that are outplaced, and we have about 425 children that are identified with special needs. So that's a very good, positive thing. A couple of areas they suggested that we focus on a little bit more: Medicaid reimbursement. If you get the parents' consent, you can get, for families that qualify, you can get Medicaid reimbursement for certain things on special ed. And that was one of the things that we are more aggressively going after that and systematically going through that. And Kim, our director, is doing a really good job on that. Another area is more co-teaching and trying to bring the kids that are in special education even more so into the general flow of a classroom. So that was another area. And finally, the last one was we need to really take a good look at how we provide aid services to the children that have special needs. And the recommendation was that we probably need to get more specialized services and maybe decrease the generalized services. So that was another recommendation. Moving on, another area that we just reviewed was student assessment results for the district. And this is a new way of doing it. It's called, it basically is a new mandated system by the state, and it measures accountability, achievement, and growth. And accountability is measured by a whole range of indicators. There are 12 indicators that go into this massive equation that include things like graduation rate, post-secondary entrance rate, physical fitness, arts, all sorts of things, as well as student achievement and student growth. So those are kind of an interesting thing. It all adds up to a kind of a big equation that comes up with all sorts of numbers and gives you an overall accountability index performance. And ours, this is the second year, was in the mid-80s, 80%, which is pretty good, which is really quite good. Our overall performance is pretty high, but the growth of children from year to year is an area that we can still work on and improve upon. And the other factors, we kind of fall in line with where we typically would be. Again, this is the second year for this, and you really need 3 years of data to really have a good feel for where we're standing. So that's kind of a good thing. The next thing is that at our Board of Ed meeting on next Monday, Malone and McBroom, the company we hired to do the redistricting, are going to have their first report on the demographics for the district, as well as a discussion on the criteria for how we go about redistricting the elementary schools. So anybody's invited for that. So you're invited for it. If you want, we can actually have copies of the presentation forwarded to you folks as well. I think it's information that is good to look at, not only from the Board of Ed perspective, but from the demographics perspective for the entire town. I think you'll find it quite interesting. The elementary school project. The building committee meets next Thursday, and we hope that we will finalize the cost estimates for the conceptual design part of the whole program. That will then enable all sorts of things to trigger. Most importantly, it'll allow us to go out to bid for all the various elements of the proposal. The building committee has been working, I'd say, very hard on this, and I think it's going to be good. You always have the scope creep is the thing you've got to really, really watch out for. And it sneaks in all sorts of different ways, and you have to go back to really say, is this really what we needed? Is this really what we needed? So there's been a little bit of that, but the building committee's doing a great job in keeping things moving along and under control. The last thing is budget. We have started our budget discussions, and Jeff, you want to maybe just summarize where we're at with that?
Well, before you go.
Oh, yeah, sure. No,
would you mind, can I just ask you a
Yeah,
question?
sure.
Is that okay if I ask you a question before he says?
We can do it either. Yeah, if you want to finish with the chair first, and then
Yeah,
we
I
can
was
go
gonna
back
say-
to the budget second.
Okay, yeah, it doesn't matter.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So I just want to ask you,
Yeah.
what possible criteria to redistrict is there other than address?
Oh, it has to do with, as you look at the various routes, for example, the options for which
Well, you said
Kids.
demographics.
Yeah.
I'm confused on that. Isn't it
that's-
just optimizing the bus route?
Yeah, that's it, but also looking at where the growth is going to occur or is occurring based on birth rates. So what we will have is an entire mapping of all the new births that have occurred in the last 4 years across East Lyme. So you'll be able to look and say, oh, it looks like we're really getting, and then you'll have it historically as well. So you'll be able to take a good look and say, this area is growing, this area is not. And so you'll be able to try to draw the new lines consistent with how the demographics are. That's just one criteria.
So the schools may not be balanced. If you think there's going to be more growth in one neighborhood,
They-
you might keep that population a little bit lower.
You might,
now.
yeah, you might leave a little. In fact, that's part of it. We might leave a certain amount of capacity. Say for Adam, this is for example. We have had a lot of growth on the area that services that Flanders provides. We may jockey things around, so there's a little extra capacity space-wise in Flanders, and we use the space in Lily B. Haynes and Niantic Center a little bit better, because if that, in fact, the demographics say that we'll probably anticipate more growth on that end of town. So,
And
that's-
so are there community forums?
not yet. Oh no, yeah, there will be.
So what's the point of a forum? I mean, I don't want to sound cynical, but if we're hiring a consultant to make the decisions, are we asking the public for their approval, or we're just telling them what the results are?
We will be giving them the information.
But that's another one of our criteria is parental involvement, ensuring we're keeping them in the loop, and having the least disruption to students and how much movement might be going on, and in the future as well. We don't want to redistrict now and then in 5 years' time per se, do this again because we didn't do it the right way. We've taken everything into
Right.
consideration.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, I did have some other questions, but,
Sure.
so for the Medicare reimbursement, you would take that and put it back towards your budget, and you would reallocate that as necessary?
Yeah, that's how we're currently doing it, yeah, paying
Okay.
bills for the services.
It's kind of like a grant that we receive, the grants we receive from the state, our excess cost grants.
And then the extra specialized aids that you were describing, is that a different skill set aid, or is that just different scope for their existing?
No, it's a different skill set.
You
So
have like
for-
a certified staff member, somebody who's qualified and skilled in a specific area to support a student with special needs, rather than maybe utilizing a paraprofessional.
So it'd
As
be
though
a-
we have paraprofessionals that are doing some of that work now.
So you'd expect it to be a higher wage because it's a more specialized skill set, or is
Well,
it just
I
a
think we have to
different
look
skill
at
set?
Maybe we'd be considering the removal of 2 or 3 paraprofessionals to bring in at the same cost a certified individual to do that work.
Okay.
At a higher quality.
Okay,
And if you bring them in at the right point, then you may correct the child's situation such that in the future grades, they won't need anywhere near the level of service that they're getting, because you've had the specialist deal with the particular issue.
and the score that you got of mid-80s, is that considered typical? Is that below standard? Is that above standard? What does 50 mean?
I'd say it's about standard for our DIRG. So if you can compare, other districts that are kind of in the same, economic, environment and so forth, we're kind of aligned with that.
Okay.
And we had, the thing, it shows, we have a couple of schools, the high school and one of the elementary schools received highest distinction acknowledgement in their points. The high school was very high. Middle school was the second. What is it? Second level. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Did anybody else?
Yes.
We're not killing your hip, are we?
No. In fact, it feels good. When I sit, it kind of cramps up on me.
Just piggybacking on that Medicare question, has the subcommittee of the budget quantified that at all in terms of what it would mean in terms of reduced special education dollars being expended? That's one question. And number two, and
That's good.
I'll ask them both in case you're coming up to address that. The 88% related to further optimization of that program. If you were going to optimize that, I'm assuming that percentage would go higher, and how does that translate into some sort of dollars for the budget? In other words, if you were to get a 90% rating, is that quantifiable, or is it just qualifiable?
On the student assessment.
Right. Is it quantifiable at all, or is it strictly qualifiable?
Oh, let's see. I guess
I think it's more qualified.
qualifiable. Yeah. I mean, you're in terms of receiving what?
You mean like a bond
Funding
rating?
or something, or?
It wouldn't have-
Anything. I mean, is it, if you can improve the services, is it going to be at a reduced cost of supplying those services? Or what does it mean? I'm not really sure.
So the student assessment is basically a process that we go through, or the state has us go through, and the state collects all the information that basically says, how are we doing as a district? And so if we were below a certain number, which we're not, we're way above it, we could be identified as a district
in need of improvement.
In need of improvement.
Yep. Which might
Would-
imply
More
that you-
dollars, more
Well,
grant money, or
Possibly. They've had what's called Alliance districts that receive
Right.
additional funding from the state to support their growth. and
You
improvement.
don't want that, because
Right,
if you're designated as an alliance district, then people don't want to live in that district. I mean, because you have a bad school system.
Yeah, so we're at the opposite end.
Yeah, we're at- yeah.
Is what we're saying. So no, it really would have no bearing. We're not going to receive any more dollars from the state. That's for sure.
okay.
No. Yeah.
But, based on that rating, it is possible that we will receive a lot more special education children into our district.
That's always a
At-
possibility. The numbers have
At
gone
a
up.
much,
Yeah.
and we know how much that costs.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
I
That's
guess
why
you're,
we're trying hard to educate them in district.
Mhm.
Tim had said, or Dr. Hagan said that our outplace numbers are very low. That's a really good thing, because as you know, it could cost, or maybe you know, it's about up to $100,000 to outplace a student,
Right.
and another $50,000 for transportation.
Right.
We get some reimbursement back from the state, but it's a lot of money, and that adds up with multiple students. You know, some districts in our DIRG have upwards of 20 students that are outplaced. I mean, calculate that number. You know, we have under 10. Very few.
and just to recap, there's no analysis that was performed based on the possible Medicaid reimbursement?
We haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay.
No, it was a recommendation, so now we're kind of breathing in the recommendations, and we're gonna see where we're gonna go.
Okay.
You know, from
Thank you.
there.
All right.
And then,
Any other
budget.
Oh, another question?
Any more questions before we hit the budget?
Okay.
Thank you.
Just a quick update. January 8th, I'll be presenting to the Board of Education our recommended budget for the 18-19 school year. But we have had 2 budget workshops with the Board of Education, with our administrators, really trying to be transparent with our Board of Ed, working through kind of where we are. We have a new finance director, Mariana Stevens, has done an outstanding job. And Bill was going to attend our meeting Monday night, but unfortunately a deer got in the way, so I'm just glad he's okay. But we invited you all to come in and take part in this. We're working very hard, again, with zero-based budgeting to be fiscally responsible. So we've got kind of a draft number of where we are, but it's still in process. I don't want to, kind of spill all that information out because things could change still. It's still very early. We don't have, final health insurance. But our focus is driven around our long-range plan. And one of the major components of our long-range plan is improving the mental health support that we provide to students. As we know, we don't have a full youth services bureau in town. Dean Putnam does a great job with Park and Rec and doing a dual role. At the school level, we went out and gathered some comparison data with other districts in our DIRG, and we're on the lower side of social work support, psychologist support. So we're looking to beef that up a little bit, not at an additional cost, to repurpose. So where can we find the dollars by doing something a little bit different, or the reduction of maybe a staff member or 2 in this area to be able to bring that in. So that's really the gist of what our conversation was about this past Monday evening. So again, we're working. We know the state of the state, where our town stands. I can tell you we're already under where we came in last year, or for this current fiscal year. I presented a 2.88, so I can tell you we're under that. So that's a good place to be right now. So we're working hard on it. Okay.
Any other questions?
Yes, Bill. So will you be appointing 2 members from this board to join the subcommittee of the budget?
You're done with
Well,
your
we did our 2
Was it
workshops.
one and only?
Well,
Oh,
it was 2. Yeah, we
it was
did 2.
so you're done.
So yeah, we're done, and now we're going to go back and continue our diligence in preparation for January 8th.
So
But I'd invite you to
the
come
public
January 8th.
is invited to attend to that.
Yes, that would be a
January 8th
public,
meeting.
our Board of
Okay.
Ed meeting, so if you could attend, that'd be great. Happy to send you any information as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Report from Mr. First Selectman.
Evening, folks. First, congratulations, Mr. Chair, Mrs. Vice,
Thank you.
returning members, and new members. Welcome. And I think it's appropriate to put in the minutes that the town's heartfelt appreciation goes out to Beth Hogan, who served on this commission for many years, as well as other commissions in town, and Peter DeRosa, who also ably served us as well. So, again, heartfelt congratulations and thanks to those individuals. Anna, as you see, is not here. I'm frightened coming to a Board of Finance meeting without me hitting the off button here and saying, what are they talking about? So obviously you are equipped with reports. She loaded up you with paperwork, but I might be able to answer some questions in general terms, but you may also want to call her next week. She'll be returning. Her husband had a procedure. And it all, by the way, is going well with that. So I know you've been thinking about her. As you saw in red, Costco is pulled out of their plans to come to the Gateway complex since we've met last, and it seems like it's been a long time. Part of that decision-making was the congestion of 95. I can't blame them for that. And that the long time expected between now and the fix of 95, which would be the improvements to exit 74 and possible widening. The state of Connecticut also was requiring that for Costco and the plans to pay a $6 million fee in order for them to cut into their on and off ramps. So the Connecticut DOT has some program where if you're rearranging their on and off ramps and you expect a curb cut out of that, you pay into that. That kind of moved them away from this particular property. I think the project was intense. I think it was extreme. We've also been, a target was proposed for that area pre-2008, and prior to that, a Kohl's was supposed to be the anchor. We saw Kohl's open up in Old Saybrook. They opened up that, and they became the anchor over there. And Target just left with the demise of 2008. But I think it was a little bit of a square peg in a round hole. I think they were pushing very hard for that property. There was a whole gas station thing, if you remember back. The project's still in play. The developers are still in town. They've just been approved to build 120 more units, part of the Sound apartment complex. As you know, they are the number one ratepayers and taxpayers in town right now, top of the list, and we're adding 120 more units. With these units approved by zoning already, there'll be more 3-bedroom units. So we would expect a higher percentage of kids coming in. But we have not been overwhelmed with children from that complex. I think about a bus load full, they're over different grades. About 30-something kids come from that complex now. And that's a transient population in there. They come and they go. They might be temporary. They might be moving into town and be there for a couple months or a year before they find permanent housing or move out. Obviously, I think since we've met, there was some play up at the State House. We were cut $400,000 by the legislature in state aid. We all celebrated that number because of the wise decision to add $300,000 into the budget. So we were looking and scrambling for $100,000, and we had come up with that. We thought we were good. And the governor, of course, as you know, brought it to $1.1 million. I can't speak for what the Board of Ed is doing. We always went with the assumption 2/3, 1/3, whether it was ECS or not, that the town would bear a third of the tax cuts or the state aid cuts, if you will. Anna and I met with virtually all the department heads long before the governor, talking about where we could cut and the 5% give back we were expecting from department heads. And we came up with a need for $281,000 from the town's budget. We encumbered that from various departments. Not all budgets can come up with 5%. Some are just wage. Obviously, when you talk about the town debt, you can't take 5% back from your mortgage payment, and that's a big payment. But we were able to take money from, the boat, overtime boat duty from the police. We, through attrition, lost somebody at the Public Works Department, our highway supervisor. Earlier in the year, we did not go and replace. We lost a Parks and Rec employee that we will not be replacing. We are going through attrition, lose someone in the clerk's office. So we got 3 bodies down. We also are taking $96,000 away from the contingency, and we feel pretty confident halfway through the year that our large contingency, we put everyone on notice. You're not going over, you're not hitting your overtime, and looking for $30,000, there's not going to be money there. And the budget seemed to be in line for that. We obviously took some money from the library and store materials, et cetera, et cetera. But we took a look at different departments, and we were able to come up with a $281,000 in encumbered expenses that we took back from departments.
So What's public relations?
It's Parks and Rec. Maybe?
Parks and Rec is public relations?
No, what do you, so we're page,
On the back here where it says budget.
assigned or volunteer, do you,
Maybe we're not on the same
Are you
page.
on budget freezes?
Yeah.
Yeah, budget
I didn't
freezes.
realize she gave you this already, agreed upon.
What does that
Yeah,
mean?
public relations, from what, see, I don't have the department books. 216, so that is police, all 216s are police.
But what is it though?
I don't know.
It's a big chunk of money.
$1,000. They must have.
No, it's
Right?
128,000, which is the 5%, right? I mean, help me out. I might be off base. I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer sometimes.
No, that's, you're carrying that across, that's the total of Department 216, maybe?
Well,
5% of the
We're only holding back 1.1%.
okay, I gotcha. I still don't know what it is.
5% would have been 128K, but we're not taking
Oh,
128K,
I
we're only
gotcha.
taking 26.
All right, fair enough. But what is it?
The public relations part, maybe it's newspaper,
We don't
lost
know.
and founds, or I can't answer for the police.
We can do I don't know.
have to leave it if you want.
It'd
No.
be good to know though.
It'd be good to know. It's in their budget, it's that line, so we all can go back and look at that line in the narrative, and we'll all have that answer.
Okay.
So I'm glad she did include that in your pack. Let me finish up my report. I did write down life is good here in Niantic. If you've been around town for the last month, between our holiday stroll, our light parade, just a general buzz downtown, it's a pretty cool place to live. Thank you to all those who came out to the swearing-in ceremony, to the inauguration, and to the elected officials after party, of which there were no incidences to speak of. At the installation or at the inauguration, Dave Putnam came up as our guest speaker and spoke to the town on a new program we're coming up with and hope to raise money for, called the Miracle League Field, which would be a rubberized field behind Flanders School for special needs and handicapped children. These are around the country. There's one other in Connecticut, and this is a regional project that would be kept here in East Lyme. So we're really kind of excited about that. I think it's a major project. I think the benefits to this town are wide. I also announced the formation and what will be the East Lyme Volunteer Corps, which will be a match.com for volunteers who are looking to serve. And because we all are involved, and we all bump into people saying, how can I give? How can I, do you have something for me? I get that every day. Or, boy, if I knew that was going on, I would have signed up. So this is going to be a way to create a database, keep it secure within the town. We won't release the data, but then let people know within that database of volunteer opportunities in that town, and then it would be up to the recipient to go out and make contact. But we're developing that right now, and that will be released in the next couple months. That might help us going forward when we talk about senior center or library or youth programming. Boardwalk patrols for security, downtown beautification, things that sometimes our town services are being paid. We're paying taxpayer money for. So I do see some savings in that, but I also just see an engagement of citizens getting involved in the town. When we do that, we're all better. Old Lyme, East Lyme Police regionalization conversations are continuing. It's conversations right now. Old Lyme has established a subcommittee of 5 people. They're looking into it. They're the ones that really have to do a lot of work on this side, because they would be losing their current police department, and what does that mean to the employees that are engaged there right now, and would there be a buyout or retirement, or would they be hired over here, and what does that all mean? Of course, they'd be losing their resident state trooper too. So they have a lot more conversation that they need to do, a lot more work they need to do on both towns are engaging the Connecticut Police Chief Association. Remember, they came in and helped us go from resident state trooper to independent, and they will be looking over the plan and making sure our T's are crossed, our I's are dotted, and then presenting finally, should we come to this, a plan to the police commission, and then to the Board of Selectmen for a change in the ordinance. If there's money involved, I would only expect savings. I would only expect efficiency. But if there was an added cost, it would also come to you in town meeting or referendum. You'll hear items on the acquisition plan. As you know, especially the tenured members here, you usually see the acquisition plan in June, because then we go to market in July for the money. And of course, we held off because we didn't know where we were going to be. This acquisition plan is dramatically been scaled down. What you'll see tonight are needs. What you'll see tonight are well thought out purchases that a town must continue to improve. We have to plow roads. We have to cut grass. We have to replace vehicles that are at the end, and that's what you're going to see tonight. There's no wants in there at all, and we'll look at those individually as we go through them. As you can see, I'm supported by department heads from all over town, and that's my report. I can answer questions.
I think that's an excellent idea to have a repository of sorts for volunteer opportunities, and
Yeah.
I think it's a wonderful idea. Just from the financial perspective and liability of that, I'm just curious if our commercial liability insurance would extend coverage to volunteers working on some of these projects that might be a little bit, I don't know, haphazard.
Well, I wouldn't want to put anyone in danger. No one's going to be, doing a forklift thing, or of course. But and we already have people driving at the senior center now, like Meals on Wheels, and going into people's homes and things. So we already do a background check, and I wouldn't open that up for the entire population.
I just want to make sure that we have
backgrounds and-
commercial
Yes, we do.
liability insurance
Yes.
to cover volunteers.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And some of this will be it might be Karen Share looking for volunteers, and all we're doing is saying, oh, you can get involved, call Karen Share if you'd like to get involved, kind of thing. And there'll be opportunities like that as well. But yes, we'll make sure we're covered on the commercial side.
John, any questions? Lisa?
Nope.
Jason?
No.
I do. Mark, in the budget report that Anna provided us with and that you've gone over, basically the shortfall number is, given. We don't have a crystal ball, but where do you see us in a month, 2 months, 3 months? Is it going to get worse? Can we expect more cuts?
We're going on the premise or the assumption that the cuts we've received are cuts enough. The state could always cut more, and they are still in the red as we keep reading. They put out a budget that's already failed. Hopefully they've already picked apart the municipal aid throughout the state of Connecticut, and they did it in the 5th month of a fiscal year. So already every town was behind. So I don't anticipate it coming from going to municipal aid. If so, it might come in the form of the grants. Some of the aid we get are permission to use money. LOCIP is a program that you'll, if you don't know about it, you'll learn about it. Local capital improvement projects funded by the state. Of course, if we don't get that money, and often they'll cut that, then we don't do the projects. And once we start the project, we've already been approved, so we would never start a project without getting guaranteed money. Those are the kind of cuts. I wouldn't anticipate any more ECS money. And as we know, we were spared from the teacher retirement fund pension rebate issue this year. And we'll see where that goes.
Okay. Thanks.
Sure.
So
John?
was your first selectman report also the financial director report?
You could say that. John had a question.
Just talking about the approval of these projects, and the state guarantees the money. How soon do you get that money? Did you get it all at once?
Oh, well, the state aid that we are getting is dribbling in. Of course, nothing came before about December 1st. Only a couple weeks ago did we start getting that ECS, the first payment.
Yeah.
So we were almost like one whole cycle behind. The money's coming in now. We had a bit of a cash reserve issue, frankly. We were getting pretty tight. Money's coming in now, and all those projects, when we do go to a LoSiP project, whether it's improvement of a town or a town road or a dam or something, we were already kind of told we're getting the money. And yes, we generally put up the money and do the project and then get reimbursement, as I understand it. But it's a guaranteed situation. And we're not talking lots, big. We're not talking millions.
Okay.
Yeah, they're $50,000 projects here and $75,000 project over there.
Okay.
So my question, combining your report and the financial director's report, is based on everything we know from what we've lost from the state or what we're not getting from the state that we were initially expecting to, based on the conversations you were having about your 5% give back and your expectations from the Board of Ed and the conversations they had, do you see us whole for where we're at right now with projected income from all our different streams?
Do I see
Do you see us whole? Do you have a solution
Whole.
for all the shortfall?
whole?
Yeah.
Everything balances right now.
Yeah, that's
Everything
better
balances
way to
today.
ask my question.
Everything balances today. Our when we did the calculation, it was $281,000 to the town and X number of dollars to. And they're making their cuts, and they're dramatic cuts, and they're going to hurt, and we're going to feel them, especially if next year is another $1 million. That's when we're really going to feel them, is when this starts compounding. We're losing a person here and there, and we're starting to talk about hiring people who can be cross-trained. Of course, this will be a negotiated item with the unions, but maybe a body who could be cross-trained through different departments. So during the tax collector season, we're fully staffed. And during those other months where we're selling dog tags, and it's a big deal around here, we have a line out the door of dog owners, we have more people in the town clerk's office, et cetera. So, yeah.
All right. Something else?
Yes, a final question on this $10,000 deficit on the budget freeze for state holdbacks. So you identified $281,000 worth of freezes, and there's a deficit of $10,000. I was trying to figure out whether you were going to request that this evening. And is it buried in any of these numbers?
I have the same question.
Is it buried in any of these numbers that you're asking us to appropriate this evening? Or are you just saying that's the number that we have to pay attention to, look, and going forward, you might be coming later to ask for that, say, out of the reserve fund?
Oh, no, we're not, we're desperate not to touch the reserve fund unless
Okay.
necessary.
So that 10,000 is just, it's a highlighted